Okay, perfect. Okay. And recording just started as well, so you will receive that. Okay, perfect. Okay, I think a few people are still joining, so that's why we're having a bit of tech challenges. So maybe I'll give it another minute or two before we start officially. Okay. The waiting room is cleared. Okay, let's start again. Hi, everyone. My name is Afua. I hope you could hear me well. I'm really excited to spend the next 45 minutes to an hour in this workshop, really talking about managing up and maximizing our impact in the workplace. So I will introduce myself in a second, but I would love to hear from you all in the chat. I do want this to be an interactive session. So if you can answer in the chat, what's one challenge you faced in your internship, in your workplace? Like, why are you here today? I would love to understand, like, what did you see? What challenges are you facing? Why did you decide to spend your Saturday evening with me, with us? So feel free to write in the chat your answer to that question. Okay, so just to repeat myself, so I'm asking for you all to write in the chat why you were joining us tonight, right? What motivated you to join us tonight? What challenges have you had in your work experience so far that made you join us tonight? Okay, I appreciate you, Lydia. Thank you. So Lydia saying how to communicate well with my colleagues and how to settle conflicts within my workplace. This is a really big one. So thank you for that. Okay. Okay, and we have another message that says understanding your requirements fully when you're given a task. Okay, that's a really good one as well. I would love to hear from at least two more people. There are currently 40 people on this call. So I know there are more reasons why you joined. Okay, Ina says effective communication is necessary in a professional setting and in our daily lives. I'm here to learn, unlearn, and relearn. I love that framework, right? Because we learn so much about communication throughout our journey of growing up and when we start the workforce. But at some point, we have to unlearn a lot of things that are no longer working for us and then relearn how to actively communicate. So thank you so much for sharing that. Okay. And the women are doing really well here. So I'm wondering if anyone else wants to share. Men, I'm looking at you. Okay, Irene is saying being able to execute tasks with some specific time and how to communicate well. Okay, that's also really, really big. Okay, cool. I appreciate everyone who just messaged. Oh, Mohammed, thank you. How to understand when to speak and when to keep mute. Okay, so I will say thank you for that. When someone asks you a question, you should speak, right? I think so often, and especially in the Ghanaian culture, it's so prevalent to kind of like hold back and to wait. But it's really, really important that in the work setting, you're sharing your ideas early. On the notion of being off mute, I will ask that if you're not muted, you do mute just so we're not interfering with everyone else's learning. Okay. So what I heard from you, I think is also reflected in this chat here, which is understand what managers are really looking for. Um, I just want to make sure that we're muted, but as you're joining, please. Understand what your managers are looking for when they ask you to get tasks done. Master structured communication frameworks to showcase your value. So a lot of work is making sure that not only are you doing the work, but people know you're doing the work and you're doing it well. Develop strategies to document and communicate your impact. And learn how to translate internship experience into powerful interview stories. So I think that's kind of what was reflected in the chat as well. Throughout this session, I will be asking you questions, and I also do want you to go off mute when you have a question so we can have a conversation. But if you're not asking a question, please make sure you're muted. Okay. So who am I? Why am I in front of you today? Who sent for me, right? My name is Afua Last. My background is in global training and really just highlighting strategic partnerships. And I do that through several ways. That is through my business. I am the founder of Last Thought Strategies, where I support people in workforce development. And what that means is that as the world changes so quickly, the needs that we have in the workplace are also changing quite quickly as well. So my job is to not only help individuals who are looking for jobs find the right skills and upskill in order to make sure you're competitive in the job market, but also on the business side, I support businesses and HR teams to make sure that they are finding the right people and interviewing them in an effective way. So not only are you hired, but you stay and you like your job. So that's kind of what I do in my company. In my 9 to 5, I work for Airtable, which is, if you've heard of Salesforce or Monday.com, it's a company that really supports people in um, making sure that their workflows and their automations are done well. And in there, I train a lot of companies. So I work with companies like Nike, Google, Twitter, or X, Meta, Delta Airlines, etc. So that's kind of my background there. So just to recap, my background is in career transitions and growth and strategic partnerships. And I love LinkedIn. I think it's a really powerful tool to connect with people and make sure that not only you learning from experts in the field, but you're also providing value. So that's kind of my background. Connie Love, did you go off mute? Did you want to say something?
Already enjoying the session. I just like saying that really look forward to learning so much from hope we get to apply all this on very work basis. So over to you for
Thank you. Okay. So if I'm breaking up, Connie Love was breaking up a little bit for me. So if I'm breaking up for you, please let me know and then I will maybe adjust my volume. But Irene, you couldn't hear me? Who couldn't you hear? Or who can't you hear? Okay. So Irene is the only one who commented. So I hope everyone else can hear me. Okay, so I'll move forward. If you cannot hear me, please write in the chat. Okay, cool, cool. Cool. Thank you, Patrick, Eric. Okay, cool. All right, so let me continue then. Okay, so we're getting right into this. So we don't have that much time today. So forgive me for not spending too much time on fluff. We're just going to get right into it, okay? So what does that mean? Let's get into this framework.
Why were
So
you not able to see this? I am telling you, okay, I don't have this and this and this and this. That's why. So I'm just giving you the thing.
mute a few people. Okay. Okay, cool. So, what do managers really want? So, you got the job, congratulations, and now you're suffering, you're struggling because your manager is always asking you things and you don't know how to make them happy, right? So, what are managers looking for? I love using the DICE framework. And what that means is that managers are looking for people who fit this framework. Can you push through obstacles without constant supervision? So when your manager tells you to do something, what is your next step? Are you constantly asking them, oh, say, what are you asking me to do? Or what do you want me to do? Or are you taking initiative and maybe coming up with your own theory and then going to your boss and saying, this is what I heard you ask of me. These are my solutions. Does this align with what you said? Right. And I'll give you an example. Right now, one of my clients is T-Mobile. T-Mobile is one of the biggest cell phone companies in the US. And they want me to train them on how to use our software. However, I can't access their software because of all the security um, regulations that they have. So only one person in my company can access this. So it's an obstacle, right? So how do I push through it? The way I'm pushing through it is I ended up writing a script for my other coworker and saying, these are the things that T-Mobile needs us to teach them. So when you are showing them solution, go step by step and show them this. So did my boss tell me to do this? No, but the goal was to make sure that T-Mobile got this training. So whatever I had to do, I had to brainstorm and problem solve to solve that. So that's what drive is. Intellectual curiosity. Are you asking smart questions and doing real research? So when I say a smart question, I mean, have you thought about exactly what your job is, right? Or are you just saying, oh, it's not my job, and then that's it? No, like actually take the time to think through what was being asked for me and how can we effectively do this, right? So that's what I mean by asking smart questions. Then coachability. Can you take feedback and adjust your approach? So if you're asked to do something and you're not entirely sure how to do it, or maybe you even do it and you think you did it so well, but then when you do it and you give it to your boss, they actually come back with feedback that says, actually, this is not what we're looking for. How do you take that feedback? Are you using that feedback to actually support the end goal of the problem that you're supposed to be solving? Or are you saying, I already did it, it is what it is, right? So that's what I mean by coachability. And last but not least, experience. You know how to showcase what you've done. So at Blossom, you've learned so much, right? Between the applied knowledge that you're learning and actually, sorry, between the theory that you're learning and actually applying that by actually building out and using your data, there's so many opportunities for you to gain experience. So when you're asked a question at work, how do you showcase that? Do you just be quiet? Like, for example, when I asked you all questions earlier, are you just quiet? Or are you actually showing your boss that, yes, I went through this rigorous program, I got my degree, I got my certification, this is what my viewpoint is and how I think we should solve the problem, right? So these are all things we should think about. And always remember, your manager is often juggling multiple priorities. So your job is to make their job easier, right? At the end of the day, you are hired to solve a problem. And if you don't know what problem you're solving, I do think that's a problem. So how many people know what problem they're solving in their job? If you don't know, we can talk through it and we can find ways so you can figure it out. But do you know why you were hired? Do you know why they pay you every week or 2 weeks or every month? You say either yes or no. So people are laughing. So I'm assuming the laughter means that all of you know exactly why. Okay, because sometimes people, I'm like, oh, why are you here? Oh, I just do this and that. But what is this and that? What does that mean? Like what exactly is your job? What value are you providing? What problem are you solving for your boss? So only two people were brave enough to answer me, which means the rest, a few 58, I'm not sure. But I'll just share with you just in case you don't know. So if you're not entirely sure what problem you solve, or the way the world works, especially when you're working, is that things change so quickly. One day you're hired for this, and sometimes you end up doing something. Oh, yes, Eric just said it. Sometimes the work you end up doing is far different from the role which you were hired. I love it because I was saying it and then you typed it. So when that happens, what do you do? How do you actually make sure that you are still giving value? One, you can ask your boss right out and say, this is what you hired me for, but it looks like it's changing. This is what I think is what you need from me now and how I can provide value. Is that true or not? Ask that question. And if you're too scared to ask your boss, use AI, use ChatGPT, use Claude. Say, hey, Claude, every day I go to the office and my boss is asking me to submit these reports, to talk to these clients, to bring these engagements. Is this the correct job I should be doing? What problem am I solving for my boss? How am I making my company money? Right. And because your background is in data, then I would also ask ChatGPT, how can I better use or leverage my data analytics background in order to get my job done faster, easier, and more scalable, right? Because what is the point of getting all this education if you're not going to use it to make your job easier and for you to look better for your manager, right? So that is what I would recommend for that. Okay. So I kind of asked this earlier, but I'll ask it again. Share in the chat what you think your manager values most. And it doesn't even have to be intern or early career, but just what do you think your manager values most from your experience in working? And even if you haven't done an internship before, if you've ever worked, right? Okay, so we have, yes, thank you, result, curious mindset, right? Because if you're giving results, that means you're moving the company forward. And when you're working, there are pretty much just two things that your manager or the, the CEO cares about. Is this company making money? Right? So it's everyone that I'm employing, are they making me money or are they saving me money? If you're not doing one of these two things, I'm so sorry to tell you, but you're probably not your boss's favorite person. So if you want to be your boss's favorite person, if you want to be promoted, if you want to make sure that you will always be employed, no matter what is happening in the economy, you need to do that, right? And I love the chat, right? So Eric says, anything you do to lessen their work. Amen. Proactive efforts. Reliability. That is so big. Reliability. People undermine reliability. Do you do what you say you are going to do? Curious mindset. Being able to meet deadlines. Meet deadlines. Okay. Take an initiative. Being proactive. Adaptability. Quick response to questions. Clear communication. Being proactive. Okay. So perfect. So all of us are on the same page. Okay. Great. So let's move on. Mastering workplace communication. How do we do that effectively? So when we think about workplace communication, I think the main thing to think about is really sharing what we've accomplished, what's in progress, and assistance that's needed. So what I mean by that is that at any given moment in your work history or in your work life, you're working on something, right? So every time you're engaging with your boss, you want to make sure they know, right? So think about it. So actually, let me see, how many people are on LinkedIn? Let me see, who's on LinkedIn? Okay, so I see one hand for LinkedIn. Okay, okay. Now, when you go on LinkedIn, what are you seeing the most? What are people always saying? People always sharing about their wins, right? People always telling you, I just got promoted. I just did this. I just did that, right? Like, what are you seeing on LinkedIn? Tell me, what do you see on LinkedIn? So I just want to wait for one or two comments about what you see often when you go on LinkedIn. People are sharing their accomplishments, right? And it can be self-development journeys, yes, right? And all of these people are always sharing you their highlight reel, like any social media, but they're letting you know that I'm doing some good stuff in the world, right? They're networking, people sharing their progress precisely. So you want to do the same thing in your everyday life with your coworkers and with your boss. Let them know that, hey, you've hired me for a job and I'm not wasting your money, right? Every day I come to work, I am doing something. And I think maybe even me, I'll speak for myself. What I struggled with when I was younger was I would say, oh, but I just do this, but I just do that. So I wouldn't share. I would just be like, oh, well, this is my job. Well, but yes, because it's your job, you need to let people know you're doing it and you're doing it well. That's how you stay top of mind and that's how you get promoted and that's how you get paid more, right? And in progress. So even if you are currently working towards something, you can share, right? So I even see in the chat, everything work related in their profession, right? So you don't have to achieve a goal in order to share it. You can say, I'm working on building this event, or I'm looking to learn more data skills, or I just learned this new data tool and I'm starting my first course tomorrow, right? It doesn't always have to be the shiny bow where you've accomplished something. It can also just be, hey, world, let me tell you that this is something that I'm doing and I'm interested in. Because what happens is that when you share your progress, not only do you find your helpers, people will help you accomplish that, but you're also top of mind for people. So if they're ever looking for that service or that value, they know to come to you. And last but not least, this is really needed for your manager. Your manager's job is to help you, right? So it's really imperative that if you do not know how to accomplish something or how to finish something, you ask for help. And I'll go back to my example with working for T-Mobile. So yesterday, I had to message my manager and I had to say, hey, I know I'm supposed to finish this by Monday evening. However, I'm struggling because of these four obstacles. This is the solution I have for them. If you have any thoughts, let me know, but this is what I'm working towards. And she replied with, I think your course of action makes sense, so please continue. right? But by me sharing the systems that I needed, two things happened. One, she knew that yes, there are things happening, which means come Monday evening, if I'm unable to complete this project on time, it's no surprise to her or to anyone involved because I've shared along the way what was happening. But I also asked for her assistance. So if there's a better way to do it, she knows now. She's not going to find out Monday at 5 p.m. when the thing is already due, right? Which just makes me a better person to work with and it just improves our relationship. How does that sound to people? Does that make sense to people, or you're like, I can never do this with my boss? What are you thinking? Makes sense. Okay, it makes sense. Okay. I know sometimes, depending on your manager, cultures are different. I know my last manager, if I went to her with a problem, she would like it, but it would be it would be a little tough. There would be more conversations to be had. And I was usually nervous when I was talking to her. So to engage with her, I had to bring more data. I had to bring more solutions, right? I couldn't just casually say, these are my problems. I had to frame it differently. So you also need to know who you're engaging with and who you're talking to, right? And an easy framework you can think about is a basic update to your manager is, I've been working on the social media project. It's going fine, but I'm not sure what to do next. You can send that, but that doesn't really give me much. It doesn't tell me as your manager that you've put a lot of thought into this. Or you can say, I've completed the content calendar for April and scheduled 15 posts, right? That tells me that first line alone. It tells me not only have you done the work I told you to do, you've scheduled 15 posts. I have a quantity of the amount of work you've done. Now you're telling me I'm currently analyzing engagement data from our last campaign. So not only have you done what I've asked you, you're actually using your value and your skill set and you're analyzing engagement from last campaign, which tells me that in the future, you're going to make sure that we are doing things in a better way to get more engagement and to get more reach, right? And last but not least, I could use your input on which audience segment we should target next. So your boss can come back to you and say, oh, you know what, you're doing a good job, continue doing it, and you tell me what to do. Or they can say, if well, I'm not sure if this is the right path you should go to, why don't you pivot? Right. So that way you're not spending all of your time just doing work that is not needed. Right. I think someone said earlier that they're here to communicate well with their colleagues and to settle conflicts within the workplace. I think active communication really reduces the number of conflicts because everyone knows exactly what you're doing and why you're doing it. So that tension of like, this person comes to work every day, they leave for lunch for 3 hours, they come back, and me, I'm here sweating, sweating, sweating. And somehow we're both getting paid. It alleviates some of that tension that can happen in the workplace. Okay. Does it seem doable for folks? I mean, some people have good lunches, so yeah, don't. I know you know those people. They just disappear, but yet we all get a paycheck at the end of the day. It's like how? But does this make sense to people? Can you see yourself doing this, or do you have any questions before we move on? Okay, I'm not seeing anything come in. Okay, cool. Cool. Okay. So another way that you can really communicate your value, and this can happen either at work or if you're interviewing, is using this method I call the RCAR method. And now I'm sure a lot of you have heard about the STAR method. And the STAR method is situation, task, action, and results. And a lot of people say that when you're interviewing, okay, I will get to your point in a second. But a lot of people say that when you're interviewing, you should use the STAR method. But my challenge with the STAR method is that if you start your conversation and you're telling me about the situation, I know someone like me, I can get carried away. So I'm telling you all the little things that were happening, and the person I'm talking to is lost and they're confused and they're not listening to me anymore. But if I tell you the results, if I start and I say, the last time that I did a social media campaign, or the
Yeah,
last time that I
yeah,
I or the last time that I trained people, I trained over 800 people. And because of that, they were able to quickly utilize the new solution, which then saved the company over $2 million. You probably also want to save your company $2 million. So you're going to listen to. So that's why I say start with the result. Let the people know what the outcome is if they listen to what you have to say to them. Then give the context, right? So lead with the outcome or the current status, then briefly explain the situation, what is happening or what happened if it's past tense. Then give me the action. And the action is what you have done. A lot of people like to talk about the team and talk about what other people have done. But here's the thing, you're the only person who is responsible for your work. So, yes, you can talk about how you collaborated with other people, but ultimately, I need to know what you did. Because at the end of the day, I'm signing a check for you. So I need to understand what value you are bringing. So make sure you're being very specific in what you did to move the project or the program along. And last but not least, connect back to the broader goals. So at all times, if you understand why you are working, and that's what I asked before, what problem are you solving? Why are you being paid to be there? Anything that you do needs to be brought back to that because you need to make sure that your boss understands that you are moving the needle forward to why they hired you. Okay. So you all can read. So I'll leave it here for you because I also think it's really important to use metrics, right? So I break it down a little bit so you can see what I'm talking about. And all of you are coming from a data background, so you have an abundance of numbers to use, right? So I want to make sure that you're leaning into that so you can build your case even stronger. Okay. With that said, let me go back to the chat. So Emmanuel says it's a bit difficult to navigate in a space where people play the age card, okay? And then what happens when your manager expects you to always find your way around situations and also meet deadlines, regardless of how you're struggling with that, just because you're paid to do your work? Okay, so I think the age card is very interesting. And depending on, I think most of you all are either in Ghana or Nigeria, which means the age card I think is played a little bit more versus if you're in the US, not so much. So I will answer for the Ghanaian audience, Nigerian audience. I think when the age card is being played, understand the culture that you're in and be deferential, right? And what I mean by that is if you're sharing your status with someone and they feel like, oh, because of your age, you're not smart enough, you're not this enough, you're not that enough, unfortunately, you have the burden of then having to prove yourself, right? And what I mean by that is that kind of what we said earlier around what is a good worker. Let me just scroll up. And people are saying you take initiative, you are reliable, you're responsible. So if age isn't a thing, you need to keep showing up reliable. You need to keep showing up responsible. And if you do that enough, people will start respecting you regardless of your age because they see you as someone who gets work done. And if you're someone who gets work done and moves things forward, then they will come back to you, right, when they need things done. So regardless of your age, you will be seen as someone to be respected, right? So respect yourself and the work that you're doing. Understand that at the end of the day, I know a lot of people say, oh, it's not my father's company. It may not be, but it's your life. So put a lot of interest and energy into the work that you are doing and let that show so other people can use that to motivate you and push you along. In terms of Emmanuel, let me know if I've answered your question. If I haven't, I'll go back to it. In terms of Eric's question around what happens when your manager expects you to always find your way around situations and also meet deadlines regardless of how you're struggling. I think two things. One, have you actually told your manager that you're struggling? And I mean, really and truly, I think sometimes, and I'm guilty of this, I'm like fighting myself and I'm, oh, if you're working so hard and no one sees how hard you're working, this. And then you don't tell anyone, right? You take it all on yourself. You don't tell anyone that you're struggling. You don't tell anyone that you're having a hard time because you're either nervous that maybe they won't respect you anymore or they will think you're not smart enough to do the job. And quite opposite, the manager is there to help you, right? They know that they're supposed to help you. So I think make sure you're asking for help and you're being very clear on what you need help with. Now, if you're clear and they still don't give you help and they're still expecting you to struggle and meet these deadlines, then I will say make friends, right? Find the people in your company who are willing to help you and who will move you forward. And while you're in that space, use them to help you achieve what you need to achieve. But if I'm being very honest, I think that's when you also maybe start looking for another opportunity because ultimately stuff like this leads to burnout and resentment, and that's not what you're looking for, right? So if there is a possibility of can I go elsewhere? Maybe look for that. If you have to stay where you are because of economic reasons or finance reasons, look for your helpers in the office and let them help you along. Okay. Eric and a few people like this, so let me know if I've answered. Eric, Henry, and Patrick. Let me know if that answers to your question. Okay, Frederick says, this is my first time hearing about the, I call it race car, the race car framework. And I think it would really resonate well with result. Yes, I think, and you said result-oriented managers. I will even push and say that every manager is a result-oriented manager, right? Every manager has a goal that they are personally trying to meet, and therefore a goal that you need to meet. So if you're starting every conversation, especially when you're in a meeting, with the results that you're achieving, you will be their favorite person, right? Jessica says, what happens when your manager claims he or she is micromanaging you just because you choose to give them updated progress report on your assignment test? Do you still go ahead and give them? Yes. So usually it's the other way around. Usually you're the one that's saying that the manager is micromanaging you. But if in this case, the manager is saying that, I guess ask the question of what do they want to know. So I think you also need to understand your manager. And I'll use myself as an example. My previous manager, every day, if I didn't send them maybe like an update every 2 or 3 hours, there would be a problem. By the end of the day, they would be like, oh, April, what did you do today? And I'm just like, my job. Right. But that's who they were. That's what they wanted and that's what they needed. My current manager, I meet with her once a week. And in between, if I don't need to talk to her, I don't need to talk to her. If she doesn't need to talk to me, we don't need to talk to each other and we're fine. Right. And it's perfectly okay. So I think understand who your manager is. Me, my current manager, once a week, I have all my things for her. Literally the framework I showed you before. I tell her what I accomplished in the week. I tell her what I'm doing and where I need help. Not just once a week. My previous manager, every day I would update her. So understand your manager. If your manager is telling you that you're doing too much, then scale back. Ask them what they would want and do that. Okay? Jesse, let me know if that answers your question. And I just want to say I'm going to prioritize answering your questions over my slideshow because as you can see, I put a lot of detail into my slide. So if you read through the slide, you will get what I'm trying to impart to you. But I think your questions should take more precedence. So I will answer questions over the slideshow. Okay. Okay, Daniel, I'm just gonna mute you. Okay, cool. My experience in my last role was different. Okay, so my experience in my last role was different. Sally, the manager, was protecting his job and would throw anyone. Yeah, and also, to Miss Ankara's point, like your manager, some people are only there for themselves and their progression. And if that's the case, make sure you're documenting things. You might not always share it with your manager, but make sure you know for yourself what your value is, because no one can take your value away from you. This data analytics certification that you're getting, only no one can take that away, no matter how your manager reacts to it to you. If you learn and you do your job well, wherever you go, you can show that experience, right? So if your manager is a bit difficult to work with and they're there more for themselves than for you, learn what you need to learn and then find another role. Okay. No one is going to take this knowledge away from you. It's yours for life. Emmanuel says, my question has been addressed at some level. The age card being played isn't about your competence. Usually people are shirking responsibilities, which ends up on your desk. How do you communicate this when they see it to be? I see. Okay. So if someone is shirking their responsibilities, the way I will do it is I will ask. I'd be like, hey, this is all that's on my plate. This is what I'm doing. This is what I understand I should be doing. Do you agree with me? Yes or no? Like out of these, I don't know, 6 or 7 things on my list, these are the 3 things that I believe I'm good at, my degree, my experience can do. I'm happy to take on different responsibilities if I want to do my job well, and I know you also want me to do my job well. What 3 or 4 things do you think I should focus on? Make them make that decision, right? So that way it can't be you're being disrespectful. No, you told me that this is what's important. These are the 4 things I should concentrate on. So that's what I'm concentrating on. So it takes away that level of disrespect because you're kind of saying, I respect you and your opinion and deferring to you. What do you think? So then later on, when they come back, you're like, hey, you told me to do these things. Unless you've changed your mind, I want to make sure I do these things really well. Okay, Emmanuel, let me know if that better answers your question. Elma, how do you cope with a supervisor who sees your growth as a competition and hence refuses to help you and also sabotage your work and takes credit for your hard work? Yes, I think Miss Ankara asked or said a similar statement earlier. I think in that case, when you're aware of it, I think quite honestly, the way I would do is I would keep doing the work. Because like I said earlier, your work and your experience follows you throughout your whole career, right? There's so many things in my career that I've done that, you know, was I supposed to do? Maybe not. Maybe my manager was supposed to do it, right? Or maybe my manager even took that and said it was theirs, right? And then they took it upon themselves. But guess what? I learned several things. One, you learn how to manage people. And whether you run your own business, whether you're working for someone else, learning how to manage people and finesse is always going to be something that you will be successful in. And when I say manage people, I mean one, manage your manager, right? Make sure that when you're sharing your work with them, you're doing it in a way that is documented. So if anyone ever comes to you, you can show like, hey, I sent this email 2, 3 weeks ago. Now that this person is saying that it's their idea, I mean, the time doesn't lie, right? Something like that. Or with your coworkers, make sure you have allies. Make sure people know what you're doing. So when someone else takes your idea or tries to sabotage your work, you know there are other people who are with you, right? God always gives us helpers. Make sure there are other people who are around you that say, oh no, I've seen Elma working on this. I know how much work she put into this. Let me make sure either I'm telling Elma what is going on or I'm not allowing this person to sabotage her work, right? So make sure you're taking credit for your own work by putting it out there and socializing it with your teammates. So that way, even if your supervisor does take it for themselves, and to some level, they're your manager, so they might, but you know the work that you did, and the people around you know that, hey, if we need work done, this is a person to go to. Because what happens is that when promotions and things come along, or when new job opportunities come along, they'll go to you because they know that you will get the job done. So it's frustrating. I'm not going to say it's not, but learn what you can from it and grow from that. So when you go to your next job, you know how to navigate that. Okay. Yes, you're going to get the slideshow, so you should be good. Okay, so let's continue. We have about 20 more minutes. Oh, I'm going backwards. Sorry about that. Okay, cool. So, and please, if you have more questions, just put them in the chat and I will get to it. Actually, I think I just saw a question. So Lydia says, how do you deal with a supervisor who asks you to do something, but if a problem arises from it, he leaves you on your own to handle it? Do you obey his orders or not? I think document it. Document everything. And I don't know what your chain of supervisory is. Is that a word? Supervisory? But write out what he said. So let's say, Lydia, let's say Elma gives you a task. Let's say Elma's your supervisor. And you know that in the past when Elma has given you, and Elma, please, I don't know you, so don't take anything personal. Let's say Elma gives you a task, and you know that Elma, every time they give you a task and something goes wrong, they throw you under the bus. What I would do is I will email Elma and say, hey, based on today's conversation, this is what you're asking me to do, and these are what the deliverables are. These are, some of the challenges I see, or this is what I think I need to do to accomplish this. Whether Elma replies to you or not is really none of your concern. What matters is that now you have sent over this document saying that we talked about this. This is what we said we were going to do moving forward. So if later on, 2, 3 weeks from now, Elma comes back and says, I never told you to do this. Why did you do it? You can say, hey, we had this conversation. You told me to do this. Here, I sent you this email that did it, right? Because that way you can protect yourself. Because if you don't do it and then you don't do what was asked of you, then you become a problem, and then you become disrespectful, and then you become the person that no one wants to work with or promote. And then rather than your supervisor being the problem, you are the problem, and you never want to be put in a position where you are seen as a problem, right? If you're learning from something, if you made a mistake and you learned from it, that's a wholly different situation than, oh, I told Lydia to do XYZ and she never does it. Do you see the difference in that? Okay, I'll move on, but Lydia, let me know if you see the difference. Okay, great. And Alma, thank you for letting me use you as a bad boss. Right? I know you're a good boss, so or you will be when you're at that level. So it's all good. All right, and Lydia, thank you for your question. Okay, so moving forward to this, setting the stage. Provided so I think let me just go back real quick. So managing up and demonstrating value. So a lot of these questions have really been about managing up, right? So when you are asked about something, how do you effectively set the stage to make sure that your manager and yourself are very clear on what needs to be done, right? First and foremost, kind of like what I just shared with Lydia, make sure that you are providing a concise description of the topic you're raising. So whether that is you either want to do something, you have a project in mind that you want to do, and you're sharing that with your manager, or your manager has told you to do something and you want everyone in the room to be clear on what you're doing, I suggest that you provide a very concise description of what exactly is being asked for you. Then share relevant context. Your manager may or may not have this. So when people say things like, my manager is either supporting me or sabotaging me, what you have to think is that have you given your manager enough information to help you or to harm you? Either way, right? Have you given them enough information? Right. And if you have not given them enough information about the task, let them know. And I'll use myself as an example. So as I've told you, I've been training my whole career. I've been working for about maybe 10 years now, officially, right? And when you work for people, ultimately, when you work for companies, you're just doing your job, right? You're not necessarily doing the nitty gritty of consulting, which is you're attaching your value to a cost, right? So when I come and talk to a client, I'm not necessarily saying, oh, an hour of my time equals $400, right? That's what the company has already said. In my current role, that's what I have to do. And I haven't done that before. So maybe about a week ago, I was talking to my boss, and the context I was sharing was, I have not done this before. Can you please help me? This is what I've done. This is what I understand. This is what I don't understand. And then she was able to break that down for me. So in the future, when things are not working, you can either go back to your boss and say, this is what we talked about, and this is the steps I'm following. Or, hey, when I asked you this, I didn't really get a response from you, so this is what I did. But that way they can see the role that they're playing in your job, right? It's not all on you now. It's not, oh, if we just went and did whatever she wanted to do, right? I've given you the context. I've told you how either you've helped me, or maybe how because I didn't hear from you, because I know you're a busy manager, I did this. Is it right or wrong? Right. So that's what I mean by context. And that's the context I use with my manager. If you can, propose a resolution. When possible, share what you're thinking of and share why you're thinking of it. And if you don't know, in the age of chat GPT and AI and fraud, go ask. Say, hey, this is what I need to do. This is, what's happening. This is maybe the relationship. And the good thing about AI is that no one needs to know your true feelings. Okay. If you really truly believe that your manager is the worst person or the best person in the entire world, you can tell AI that. You can say, this person is really difficult to work with. And every time I suggest something, they come back with all these questions. How do I frame this so they can hear what I'm saying to them, right? Give me possible resolutions, give me possible next steps, right? So allow your tools to help you be successful, right? And then last but not least, make your ask explicit. What do you need? Do you need guidance? Do you need money? Do you need time? What do you need from this person? Why are you asking them? Why are you sending them a message? If you're able to do that and you're able to be clear, that makes your life easier and their life easier. At the end of the day, all of us just want to do a good job and go home and eat our watch. Okay, so just keep that in mind. So, ineffective approach. I, I say word vomit a lot, and I don't know. I got a comment on this when I shared this with the with the Blossom team. They were like, what is that?" So I would love to hear from the chat. Have you heard the phrase word vomit before, or is this just something I say? Let me know. I love it. Eric understands me. Do a good job and go home and eat your watch. Um, okay, it's a familiar term to me. Prince says no. Okay. So when I say word vomit, what I mean by that is you're coming to your manager and you're just kind of like sharing all the things, right? You haven't taken some time to articulate it into some form of format or framework. You just kind of like, oh, this is all that's wrong with me. And this morning the charger broke down and this and this and this and this. And the next thing 10 minutes have gone by and I don't know why you're talking to me, right? And that's what I mean by word vomit. You're just sharing all your problems with your manager, and it's not really something concrete that they can easily grasp onto, right? So you don't want to do that, because even if you think about it with your friends and your family or your coworkers, if someone comes to you with a long story, you don't want to listen to it. You want to know, what do you need, and how can we move on so we can go live our lives. So that's one. Everything is not at risk or urgent. So I know sometimes everything seems like, oh my gosh, this is about to like be the end of the world, but the reality is that's not the truth, right? So make sure that you're accurately sharing the level of importance of what's happening. And kind of what I said earlier about word vomit, when you share long updates without a clear purpose, it's not helping. And someone asks earlier about, oh, what if your manager says that you're treating them like they're micromanaging? I hope I read that question correctly. If I didn't, please rewrite it. But what I'm hearing from that comment is that your manager feels like you're updating them too much, and maybe there's not a clear purpose. They don't know why you're updating them so much. So ask the question, what do you want to know from me? Or maybe you need to do that work of reframing how you're sending out notes, right? And then last but not least, it's not always your manager that needs to start a conversation. You are the owner of your own work. You are the CEO of your own work. At the end of the day, you're the person who dictates how well your work is going to be and your earning potential. So if you take that on yourself and you treat yourself and your career like the CEO that you are, then you're always going to make sure that you're in the driver's seat. If you always wait for your manager to bring something up to you, then you're outsourcing your talents, you're outsourcing your money to someone else. And that is not what we want to do. Okay. So effective questions to think about. What is the potential impact on our goal, right? So if you're about to send a message to your boss, think about it. Why am I sending them this? Does this message tell them how a goal is being impacted positive or negatively? If the answer is yes, then send the message and then be clear. This is going well in the project, XYZ. Or the project is at risk, or we may not do this in time because of these challenges, right? Second, how will we take ownership of the problem? So if there's a problem that's actually happening, how have you thought about the ways that you can help? And or how do you think your manager can help? But be very clear on what you need from people. Do not expect your manager to now come and save the day. Quite frankly, if it's your project, it's your problem. So you figure it out and you ask for help. Okay. And last but not least, what specific action or decision is needed? If you've already come up with a few solutions and you just need the green light, then ask me that. Can I move ahead? Can I not move ahead? Yes or no. Do not let people work harder than they need to. No one likes someone who comes and brings more work on their plate. I saw this meme yesterday and it was like, someone's about to email me with with something that is in my job description that I have to do. I hate them, you know? And like as much as we all know where I work to work, sometimes you just want people to make your life easier, right? And if you're that coworker for other people, people will like you. People want to work with you. People will promote you. People will make sure you always have a job. Your internship will go to a full-time job. So just keep that in mind. Okay, now we have 10 minutes left. I just want to see. I think I can go through this quickly, but if you all have questions, let me know. But I think I can definitely go through the content in 10 minutes. Okay. And then if you have time to stay a little bit later, please feel free. So um when it comes to especially promotions and or looking for a new job, I recommend that while you are in your job, you create a weekly win document. And what is that? That is an Excel sheet or a Word document that just lists the things that you've done well each week. So every Friday, maybe find 10 minutes. And as you see, this is very simple. The date, accomplishments, the impact, and the skill, and just write it out. Now, if you're currently in a job and you don't necessarily know what you want to do next, then just write out your wins. If you know you want a promotion, then ask your boss, or if you don't want to tell your boss yet because you feel like they won't help you, then make sure that you are looking at other positions that talk about the skills that you need in order to be promoted. And then if you're looking for a new job, read the job descriptions and see what skills do they keep mentioning. Once you understand where you're going, you have a better understanding of what you can actually track, right? So if you know that the job that you want in the future really cares about process improvements, then make sure that every week you do at least one thing that makes you 1% better at process improvements. And then you write it down, right? I was able to automate data entry, which reduced processing time by 40%. What skill was that? Not only did you solve a problem, you did process improvement. Bam. Now, every week when you write this down, a year from now, 6 months from now, whenever, when you're looking to get promoted or when you're looking for a new job, you go back to your sheet. And if you've had every week, you've written one thing that you've done well, this means you have at least minimum minimum. You have at least 20 examples that you can now use and create different stories. And going back to our race car method, you can show the results you've had, right? So you would start your interview or you would start your conversation with, I was able to reduce processing time by 40%, which was really helpful to the company because before we used to take 2 to 3 weeks to accomplish these tasks. And now with using SQL or Excel or whatever I use, we're able to process that faster and reduce our customers, meaning that we have more money. Simple, done. And it took you less than 5 minutes. Does it seem doable to people? Does it seem like something you can do? Ooh, what did I just do? I don't know what I just did here. Sorry, y'all. Okay, great. Um, I don't know how to get rid of this red thing. Hold on. Oh, it's not me. Okay. Harriet, can you, I'm not sure what you're doing, but can anyone delete these? Let me see if I can delete it so we're not distracted. Okay, great. Okay, let's continue. Okay, so moving forward, using data to tell your story. So now this is your expertise, right? So I won't go through all of these. I have a link here. When you receive the deck, you can click on the link and go to just different ways to communicate the ways that you've used data to problem solve, right? In every company, you're problem solving. So make sure that you're able to communicate that effectively. And this is just very word heavy, so I don't want to spend too much time here. But if you read through it, it is comprehensive enough, right? Identify the business question. What decision are we trying to inform? Relevant metrics, plan your analysis approach, execute with transparency, and communicate. Ultimately, it is your job to show the business why they need to keep hiring you or why they should hire you, right? And you are the expert in data. So show how data saves companies money, make companies money. And this framework will allow you to do that. So when you receive it, read through it. And then in this link that I have here, I go through several case studies so you can just get familiar with how different companies use data. Every single company in the world right now is looking for people with data expertise. And if you have it, there's no reason why you should not have a job. Okay. Data informed storytelling, kind of the same thing I said earlier. Make sure that when you speak about data, you're not doing it in a way that goes over people's heads who don't know data, right? So instead of saying I analyzed customer segmentation data, say I conducted cluster analysis on purchasing behavior, right? And like even break that down more. If you work for, let's say, Pepsi, I looked at where people purchase Pepsi the most. And I noticed that people purchase Pepsi the most at football games because they're eating, I don't know, wagashi, and therefore they're thirsty. I don't know your story, but if you look at the data, you will understand where people are purchasing these things more. And you can have a recommendation that says, therefore, I think we should have more Pepsi at the entrance when people are coming into the game because it'll raise our sales by 10, 20%. That is your job as a data and analyst. I was like, data analysis person? No, your job as a data analyst, right? Like that is your job. That is what you do. So make sure that you're able to communicate that effectively and show that how your job, how you analyzing data supports the company in their overall money making goals. If you're not able to communicate that, don't expect someone who does not have your same expertise to communicate that for you. Okay. And last but not least, if you are coming to data from a different background, right? Maybe you're coming from a communications background. Maybe you got your degree in teaching and education or English, math. All these come together to make you a really powerful storyteller and someone who's very experienced. So don't think, oh, I can't use my previous experience for my new experience. No, merge them. Because if you have business knowledge and you also know how to visualize data, you can tell very powerful stories about what is happening in the world through your expertise, right? If you come from a communications background or maybe an English teacher, you know how to write very well. You know how to tell a story very well. And ultimately, that's how people learn. So use that for your skill set, right? Transform complex findings into business opportunities. Use both of your skill sets to work together, or even your volunteer experience. Use that to complement each other, not to just, put them in two separate boxes. Okay. And then this is just more cause and effect. So this is it has lots of words on it, but more or less what I'm trying to get across here is when you're explaining yourself, especially when you're writing your CV or when you're in your interview, use cause and effect, right? Instead of just saying you're responsible for social media management or you assisted with data analysis, say, I was able to analyze customer purchase patterns, identifying a $50,000 opportunity in underserved market segment. Who do you want to hire? The person who says, oh, I analyze data, or the person who says, I made the company an extra 50,000? Tell me, who do you want to hire? The person who just randomly analyzes things, or the person who makes you money? I want to see an answer in the chat. Makes me money, right? So always be the person who makes people money, right? Because someday you're going to be the person who makes people money, and then someday you're going to be making money for yourself, and you're going to be hiring people. So get in the habit of talking in that way. Okay. Let's see. This is a recap, I believe. Okay, so my last thoughts on this is make sure you're using structured communication when you're speaking, right? You either use a three-part update, tell me what you've accomplished, tell me where you're working on, or tell me what you need help with, or all three, or use a race card method. I will say in your day-to-day with your manager, you're probably using the three-part updates. If you're doing a meeting or presentation, or you're going for an interview, use race card. Document your achievements in the weekly win document that we talked about. Translate the task that you might find is basic. You might think to yourself, Emmanuel, you always do this every day. This is your job. It's not a big deal, but it is a big deal because that's why you're hired. That's why they pay you every week, right? So make sure you're getting out of the mindset of this is a basic thing and translate it into business value. Translate it into, by me doing this, I saved the company this amount of money or time, or I made them. Identify your unique power stack, right? What do you have? What do you enjoy doing? Are you the type of person who loves to be creative, but you also are good at data? Okay, then create really compelling data stories. Create charts that people love to see. Create visual data analysis, right? Use your skills to complement each other. Last but not least, transform job descriptions into cause and effect accomplishments. So if the job description is saying they want this, make sure that you are showing how you've done it previously. And even if you don't have the exact experience, the fact that you've gone through this program means that you've done some projects, you've put some work in. So don't discount what you've done in the past. Okay. And last but not least, use data to tell compelling stories about your impact. All of you here have gone through a very rigorous program and you know how to use data and talk about data well. So let that be your advantage, right? Don't let all this hard work that you've done go to the wayside because you don't want to talk about your expertise. Okay. Now, we've been you've been really, really great. So I really appreciate all the questions you've been asking. We are exactly at 7 p.m. So if you need to drop off, please do. Thank you so much for spending your time with me this Saturday evening. But if there are any questions, I'm happy to stay on for an additional few minutes and answer your questions that you might have. And of course, this slide will be sent to you as well as the recording. So you will have that for yourself. Okay. So if you have any questions, drop them in the chat and I'm happy to answer them. I think Connie Love will send you a, but you know what, just so we're all on the same page, let me just share the link with you right now. Here's the link to the slide, just so
Okay.
no one gets.
I'll, if I can make an input. Okay. So the link to the recording would be shared with you as soon as it's uploaded. But hopefully you get it before Wednesday.
Okay, thank you. So as was just mentioned, the link will be uploaded. So I think you all probably know where. But I also just put the link to the actual slideshow in the chat. So if you click on it, I see there are over 15 of you in there right now. So you have access to that. Okay, so Eric says, what in your view are the basic three things everyone needs to make the best of their work or please their bosses or employers? Honestly, I think it's kind of what I shared earlier with the DICE framework, right? It's, are you driven? Do you understand that ultimately, yes, maybe someone else is signing your paychecks, but you are the CEO of your own life. And what that means is that ultimately, every single project and task that you are given, you have to take it as if it's your own, right? Because the more you do this and the more you learn, it means that either one, you can now take that and start your own business because you're an expert and you can do this really well. Or it means that you can rise up and be promoted, or it just simply means that you have job security, right? Because people know they can rely on you because you will always take ownership of your stuff. So I think drive, curiosity. Things are changing so quickly. I don't know how many of you are using any AI tools, but there are at least like, I don't even know, like 30 AI tools that you can use in your job as a data analyst every single day. And they're going to keep changing rapidly. So if you are not confident or aware or curious about it, I don't know. It's going to be a problem for you because other people are going to learn it and do it faster and better than you. And then last but not least, I think this is so corny, but like have fun, like enjoy what you do. And if at any point you're no longer enjoying your work, pivot to something else because there's always going to be something to learn and to grow in and to have fun in and to wake up and say, I want to do this. Right. And it shouldn't be because of your boss or someone else. It should be because of you. Like you enjoy it. Okay. Alma, thank you. Thank you so much for spending time. I'm glad this was worth it. I appreciate that. Oh, thank you so much. Top-notch presentation. Thank you. Thank you so much, all of you. I really, really appreciate it. You can find me on LinkedIn. I share all these all the time. So if you want more, or if you just want me back, just make sure you tell Connie Love and I'll be happy to come back. Okay. But I know some people just came back in, so I would just put this in the chat one more time so you all have access to the link. And then as Connie Love said, if you look at the download, you should receive that shortly. Okay. Alrighty. Thank you all for spending your Saturday evening with me, and I will see you at some other events. All right. Thank you.